Hello there, I'm Rachel and welcome to Biotic-ish, the channel where we use science to try and explain how crazy science fiction stuff might work. Let's be honest, if you watch any old sci-fi stuff like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Alien, or even Back to the Future, I'm kind of disappointed by what 2020 looks like. I mean, no time travel, we haven't colonized any planets, no flying cars, no alien encounters. It's a major drag. But you know what? It's not too late to make the planet the sci-fi never land of our imaginations. There are still dreamers out there, and some of those dreamers are the creators of the popular TV series The Expanse. And they have imagined this future where you've still got your basic old Earthlings, but also now humans live on Mars, and then a bunch of folks living out on the asteroid belt called Belters who have spent their whole lives growing up in zero gravity. Now, if you look at the classic Belter body, there's a couple things you're going to notice. Firstly, they're super tall and lanky, like 6 to 8 feet tall, but then also their bones are brittle and fragile, and in some cases deformed. These people can't really survive Earth's gravity for very long, and the government intelligence on Earth will even use what they call gravity torture to get intel out of Belters, since it's so painful for them to withstand just normal Earth gravity. So watching this sick show, 10 out of 10 would recommend, it's killer. It got me to thinking, what actually happens to the human body in space? If I'm gunning for this insane, ultra space age future, then probably gotta first understand what would actually happen to a person if you chucked him out into the expanse. So I did a little digging. NASA groups the stresses of space on the human body into 5 categories, which are gravity fields, isolation and confinement, hostile enclosed environments, space radiation, and distance from Earth. But I want to first just focus on gravity. You have to consider how important gravity is for the human body. People always say like, oh, drink your milk, grow big and strong, but really they should be saying subject your body to the stress of gravitational force, grow big and strong. I feel like it's just as catchy of a saying. Gravity is really important for the proper development and functioning of our bodies, and basically gravity tells our bones and muscles how strong they need to be, which means that if you're out in zero G, your bones and muscles are going to atrophy or shrink because your body thinks you don't need them. It's use it or lose it. While we're not exactly sure how it's done, gravity is converted from a mechanical signal to a chemical signal to tell your body to maintain bones and muscles. And actually, without gravity working on your body, studies have shown that bone density drops about 1% per month and can total up to 40 to 60% with prolonged space voyages. In normal gravity, like here on Earth, bones are being destroyed and rebuilt all the time by bone destroyer cells called osteoclasts and bone builder cells called osteoblasts. But in space, in zero G, there is more activity of those bone destroyer cells, and studies in mice have shown that the number of those bone destroyer cells increases in zero G, while the number of those bone builder cells decreases. And this is all important because lower bone density can lead to osteoporosis-related bone fractures. So osteoporosis is a disorder where losing bone strength leads to fractures because of fragile bones, which seems to be what the Belters are suffering from due to growing up without bone-boosting gravity. Also, childhood osteoporosis can cause physical skeletal deformities in severe cases, which is similar to how Detective Miller's bones hadn't properly developed. And all of these things could explain the Belters' brittle bones from growing up in zero G. Another complication that the Belters in the Expanse experience is having difficulty completing normal, healthy pregnancies. And a lot of pregnant Belters can have long, dangerous, and painful labor. And remember those osteoclasts? Well, scientists have found that astronauts come back from space with increased bone destroyer cell activity, particularly in the pelvic region, which could definitely contribute to these problems women face in childbirth. And we know that women with severe osteoporosis can get spine and hip fractures during pregnancy, which also could for sure contribute to their painful deliveries because, you know, breaking bones does not feel too nice. Low gravity also has some funky effects on our hearts, and turns out that our hearts work less hard in zero G, where they don't have to kill themselves to pump against the force of gravity. But then basically, if there's no gravity giving your heart a kick in the tushy, then it starts to get lazy. It beats less per minute, and its cardiac output, how much blood per minute it pumps, decreases too. And so, kind of funny sidetrack, usually our blood pools at our feet because of gravity, but astronauts' blood pressure in space equalizes or becomes the same from head to toe. So astronauts look kind of wacky with puffy faces, bulgy eyes, and skinny legs. But what happens is when there's high blood pressure in the head, that signals the body that there's too much blood, and so astronauts can actually lose up to 22% of their blood volume, meaning that their heart has less blood in the body to pump and it gets weaker and atrophies. Wait, if your heart gets smaller and weaker, does that mean that there's less love in outer space? So there was this super awesome study called the Twin Study done by NASA on the effects of long-term exposure to the extreme environment of space on the human body. And I've mostly so far talked about the effects of zero-G, but this study goes way beyond that. What NASA did was send astronaut Scott Kelly up to the International Space Station for a year. Meanwhile, his identical twin, Mark Kelly, stayed on Earth, and then throughout and after the mission, they monitored what was happening in Scott's body versus his identical twin, Mark, who had the exact same DNA. So there were 3 key findings from this study. Telomeres are the end caps of chromosomes, which are the structure that DNA is packaged into in our body cells. And Scott's telomeres actually lengthened in space, but immediately returned back to normal once he got back to Earth. And what's interesting about telomeres is that we think they're linked to health and lifespan. Something else important the researchers found from this twin study was that Scott's immune system seemed to respond normally in spaceflight, and when they gave him a flu vaccine up in space, it worked on the body just like it did on Earth. And the fact that our immune system might work a-okay is super important to know if we're talking about humans living their whole lives up in space. And thirdly, compared to his twin, Scott showed pretty significant variability in gene expression. So when we're talking about gene expression, it's this idea that your body has an entire genetic code of DNA, but at any given time, your body is only using information from certain genes to make protein products. And Scott showed variability and also increases in certain genes being expressed. While when he came back to Earth, a lot of his gene expression went back to baseline, a percentage of them actually did not, which goes to show that our bodies react totally differently to the crazy environment of outer space. We're not sure yet exactly what the implications of this could be, but for now it's a, whoa, crazy kind of moment. So basically, to sum it up, gravity is important, space is wild, and I'm still waiting for a futuristic sci-fi world makeover. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like it and subscribe to my channel and comment down below what you thought was most interesting. Thanks for watching.